Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast, episode 385. This is your guide to the geek side. And before we begin, you can find all of our wonderful podcasts on secretfriendsunite.com and also on the Secret Friends Unite Network RSS feed, which is available on all podcasts around the galaxy. All of our shows, all about video games, geek culture, Star Wars, Star Trek, are all there. So rather than get one, get all of them. And we're on YouTube.
It's like potato chips. Oh, and it's like potato chips with Cheez-Its. YouTube is Cheez-Its. There you go.
Absolutely. And we're on YouTube. We have our own custom URL, so all of our faces are there. And you know what? You might see some cool things in the background. Eric may have something, a prop he wants to share in the show. And that leads us into our introductions. I am Todd Oxtra, your host, joined by Charlie Carden.
What's up? Obviously, YouTubers, you see my background. Recently got a new piece of art right here. Always trying to showcase this bit right here. So yes, YouTube, plug, YouTube.
And we are joined by a very special guest, a professional in the media. That is Mr. Eric Zane.
Well, if by professional you mean gets fired from every job he's ever had, then I guess so.
Such a professional. This was the guy who taught me, because Eric and I, we worked together a number of years ago. He's the guy who taught me the expression, on the beach means you are unemployed.
Very good.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, awesome.
Yes. Sorry,
well,
I didn't mean to step on you. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. And I've heard so much about the shows that you guys do, and I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, and you had, when you were doing your older career before you moved on to, doing professional broadcasting on your own, self-publishing, whatever you want to call it, which is great. You and Charlie worked together, and then you had Charlie on. Charlie would come in and do like some. He would be kind of like your resident geek expert. He showed up in cosplay one time. Yep. So, how was it like working with Charlie?
Charlie, one of the things that stood out to me about Charlie is his attitude was always tremendous, and he was very consistent in it. I never really saw him anything other than what you see right now on the show. And you know what's crazy is everybody was so negative at the radio station. I think there were people that didn't like him because he was so optimistic.
I was. It's funny, April and I have been watching Night Court, and I'm kind of like the character of Bull Shannon in a lot of cases. Super positive and stuff. It's somebody that everybody dumps on because I'm such a ray of sunshine. I know it's true.
No, it's legit. We hit it off right away. And it, I'm here, and it didn't take much to convincing. He just said, "Hey, you want to do the show?" It's like, oh my God, of course. So Charlie's great. I love him. I got nothing but good things to say about Charlie.
And Eric's very kind, but Eric was part of another show before he came to the station group we worked at that was syndicated nationally, and I was a huge fan. So I think I probably absolutely scared the shit out of him on his first day by approaching him and saying, "I'm such a big fan," because I'm also probably 9 inches taller than you are. I don't know. Like, I'm a lot taller than you are. So you were looking at me like, "Oh, hey, Sasquatch, thank you for being a fan."
Yes. This gigantic man approaches me, and he's slightly fanboyed out, which, I actually was happy that he did that. When you're in radio, you have an enormous ego. So if someone tells you that they like you, you got it. I love that. But not everybody in radio reciprocates. I would always try to yeah, hey, I really am happy that you love me so much.
Please love me. Oh my goodness. But anyway, as Todd I'm sure was about to ask you, and I'll do it since I'm talking anyway. Anytime we have a guest on, we'd love to get the ball rolling by having them tell us, what's your geek origin story? What's your background in fandom? What popped your cherry, as it were, when it comes to geek stuff?
Okay, when I was a kid, it was the Incredible Hulk comics. And then that kind of went into the Avengers, Spider-Man, Alpha Flight. If it was published, I got it. And I still have all those magazines to this day. And I kind of fell out of it, but it's kind of become like my thing in other realms, too. I have that type of passion for just about anything that I happen to start following. So, yeah, that's basically it.
Awesome. And Eric,
nice.
You're just a couple of years older than us, Todd, because Todd's a year older than me. I'm probably 3 or 4 years younger than you. So your reading was in Marvel was late 70s, early 80s, if I'm not mistaken. Because you threw out Alpha Flight, and I thought, Alpha, John Byrne, 1982.
John Byrne, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember my mom and dad used to buy comics when we would go on trips, and I was 4, 5, 6, 7 years old at that point, and I still have those actual comics that they purchased for me: Richie Rich, Sad Sack, all these old Warner Gold Key comics.
Oh
shit
my
like
gosh,
that.
that's wild.
I still have those actual comics. I remember reading this gigantic Superman versus Muhammad Ali comic.
Oh yeah.
We were just talking
magazine
about that.
sized, yeah.
Big Treasury. We were just talking about that a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I had the Spider-Man Superman one, which eventually the cover got ripped off, and I lost the comic, but had the cover, and now the cover's gone too. So I don't even know how that goes down like that. And you can't get the story anywhere; it doesn't exist in digital at all. So it's kind of
no. And I sometimes look for images of it online just to like take me back, and like it's really fantastic remembering those early readings when I was a kid. And then when I was old enough to be able to commute on a bike anywhere, I would ride to this little flea market in southeast Michigan called the Bi-County Flea Market. And there was a guy who sold titles there. Are you familiar with that, Charlie? Have you ever heard of that thing? It's on Groesbeck, I think.
Oh, okay. God, is it still around? I was just back.
I don't know if it's around.
Yeah, I was just back in the area recently for work. I'm in Metro Detroit pretty frequently. So, yeah, I don't know if it's still around, but I mean, there's still a scattering of comic shops in the area. There's the Comics Corner in Fraser, and there's places in Gratiot. Yeah.
So I would head over there and do that deal, and I just started just a few titles, and then more and more titles. I'd get this. He'd have them all set out to the people who pick up their titles, and in those brown bags, all boarded and bagged, and he sells them to me, and then off I go, man. And I just couldn't stop reading, and it was just nonstop. And then as I got older, I got involved in other things, and it just kind of fell off. But I'm still very nostalgic about all those titles.
That's perfect. And as Todd set up for us, that's what we're going to be talking about a little bit later on in the show.
Well, folks, if you're watching on YouTube, I have a different background because we had some technical difficulties, but you won't even notice because now we're going to pivot to a not so classic cover that matches the episode number of our show. And that is The Mighty Avengers number 385, the era of Mike Deodato. I guess tank tops are in as a team uniform and a ponytail.
Oh my God. And I know I think I was, because I told you I read that whole volume 1 run, which I think ended right around 400. So this is really close to the end of that run. But I don't remember. There's Thor that looks like, there's Crystal still with the leather jackets. But yeah, they have Hercules. He shaved his beard and started wearing tank tops. So they were really, it became very G.I. Joe-like at the end with the Avengers as far as kind of no sustainable, normal outfits that anybody would wear. You always remember classic with G.I. Joe with the action figures they started, everybody wore what looked like army, standard uniforms. And by the time you got to the 3rd or 4th year, you had people wearing all kinds of crazy shit, football jerseys and Hawaiian shirts. And so this is the Chuckles area of who's the Hawaiian shirt guy in G.I. Joe era of the Avengers. Like, oh my God. And I don't know. I think maybe the woman is supposed to be the Black Widow because I know she was on the team at the time. I don't know. And Quicksilver, whose outfit never changed. It was always the blue.
Yeah, that was striping. Thunderstrike. There's Crystal. There's that one. Is it the Shi'ar warrior woman?
Yeah, there you go.
Cat lady. I don't know who she is. Not Tigra. So, Eric, when you see this cover, what comes to mind?
It's horrible. It is so not aesthetically pleasing. Whoever decided that this looks good, it's just so busy, and I don't know. It seems like the way that they had. I'm sure this was the period, but Hercules is a mess.
That's a wreck.
That is just a piece of garbage.
And the belt. And, that's a great belt.
This stinks.
Got some chinos from the Gap.
Oh my God, that's the quote. It's like Jay Sherman is the critic. It stinks.
Oh God. Yes. Yeah, I am not a fan. I would, if I was reading, had been reading the volumes before that or the issues before that, of course I'm going to get it to see what happens next.
Oh my
Because
gosh.
and that's why I would always read comics, because I just love the stories. But if I am like, hey, what's this? I'm not even going to pick it up. It looks so bad.
Yeah, right.
No.
You've reversed fired me from buying this issue. Forget about it.
Yeah,
Yes.
the 90s were not kind to the Avengers, but they came and found better days in the 2000s. But moving on from this classic cover, we move on to a classic gal. That's our modern day news correspondent from the old days. That's Madam Webb. So without further delay, Madam Webb, take it away.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's rumors and news. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. Madam Webb, I know how you are attracted to silver foxes, and we've got one this week. So, Eric,
Plus me.
if you're looking
Plus
for
me.
new one. If you're looking for a side piece that happens to come from the Roaring 20s, and that's 1920s, we'll hook you up.
Oh my God.
Yes, she puts the C in cougar. Oh,
Okay.
My goodness. Well, first up and foremost, they say it's punching down or don't kick somebody when they're down. I'm going to take the low road on this one, because for the second time this year, if I'm not mistaken, the good folks at Hasbro, and I certainly don't want to put down our friend Patrick, who works at Hasbro, because this has nothing to do with him. He was a great dude. He was a great guest. I like him very much. But whomever is pitching the marketing ideas for Haslab, which is the crowd-funded projects over at Hasbro, there have been a lot of successful ones. There was the Razor Crest, not in the large format, but in the smaller format for Star Wars. There's a current ongoing one for G.I. Joe for the 6-inch classified series, that is the Hiss Tank, which is going, I haven't checked it recently, but they reached their funding in 12 hours and they still have a month left to go. This project is one of two. I say they're 0 for 2 when it comes to Star Wars Black Series, which is the larger format figure, 6-inch figure, within the last 12 months. The Rancor was a famous failure. They were asking, Todd, was it $300 or $400 for that one? I can't remember. Does that ring a bell? Whoops, did we lose?
It was targeted at, they don't even list the price anymore on the website.
Yeah, because they just, but yeah, it failed to fund, because really it was, in a lot of ways, it was ill-conceived. The unlocks to it were not very exciting. They were like, here's some rocks, and here's a blah, blah, here's a repackaged figure. Nobody was going for it. Well, their most recent one has to do with basically a cosplay item, or that would be a Force Fx lightsaber from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series for the character Reva, who's, quasi controversial with all the super toxic Star Wars fans out there. But regardless, while it is a nice looking piece, and while lightsabers, there are many companies out there that manufacture them and do it very successfully. This project, which was looking for 5,000 backers within these, I'm going to assume, 4 to 6 weeks period for funding, only acquired 1,413 of them with a $500 price tag. Now, I would submit to you, and again, if Mark Carabin, who is my co-host over on our Star Wars show, the Holocron Chronicles, was here, he has an affiliate link with one of the lightsaber vendors. He's going to kill me that I don't remember the name of it. I have looked at those prices, and they don't touch $500. You jump in there and you buy one, and it's not this whole hullabaloo. But yeah, this was a big failure for them. So it makes me kind of wonder if this is something that's going to be ongoing for them, if they're going to be able to have a successful Black Series larger scale project. I don't know, Todd, this is not your cup of tea, but certainly their first and biggest project you and I really didn't agree on, which was the Jabba sail barge, which ended up being funded, but it didn't.
I won the bet. Charlie and I had a bet if it would get funded. Yeah. I won because I said geeks love things like that. It was priced right. I think it was the first one.
It was, yeah.
Of the 12 Haslab products that have been launched, 3 have not been funded. So Rancor, this lightsaber, and Cookie Monster, which they don't even list anymore. So Eric, you may not be familiar with this, but basically they're almost like Kickstarted toys that they get backers from. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
No, I'm picking up on all these things, and basically for me, questions come to mind. And my first question is: if a person puts down the money for something like this, does this go up in value?
Totally. Yeah, because it's a very unique item that couldn't even that can't be acquired anywhere else.
Well, then why in the world would it not be able to? I mean, that's not a. I mean, it seems to me like 5,000 people. There's so many people that are in love with Star Wars in the world. Well, how could this not have gotten off the ground? I'm very confused.
You know, it's a great, and again, I think, especially with an item like this, that it's a competitive element that, you know, you can get something similar, or you can get maybe a higher quality item and not have to wait. Basically, when these close, you have a window of 12 to 18 months before you're going to have it in hand.
Okay.
Where if I wanted this, even potentially this exact item, because this is not terribly dissimilar from a different style of lightsaber that was on a different program a couple of years ago. So if I went to Mark, I'm so sorry. If I go to the affiliate link of the one that our partner Mark does, I may find an item dramatically similar to this that I can get my hands on, you know, within a 3 or 4 week shipping period as opposed to 18 months. So if someone was an investor, and maybe a lot of these 1,400 people who said that they wanted to buy it as an investment that's going to double or triple in value, maybe almost immediately, maybe that just wasn't enough for, you know, cosplayers like myself that want to have an item that they can, you know, wear to a Comic-Con. I don't know. That's
interesting.
my guess.
Well, and not only that, but you know, if it goes up in value, I'm just thinking about if someone actually would want to buy like a number of these and then hang on to them. I mean, that's a full-on investment type of scenario right there. I just find it really interesting. Perhaps the market has gotten to a point where that's just asking too much money, and then people are going to figure that out. That okay, we really can't go over a certain threshold. We're asking these people for money all the time. They're obviously, I think maybe greed might have screwed this up for them, because there's no way that the product, I mean, who knows how much it costs to make the thing. It's,
yeah,
you know,
I'm sure they pumped up their profit margins by 10,000% or so, it would seem. You know, Todd, you work for a large corporation, and you work in logistics. You know a lot about retail. What's your input?
So it's a couple of things. So perceived value, quality of the components, things like that, time and effort, people behind it. So you've got all your sunk costs, or COGS, costs of goods sold. So that's your baseline for just making. That's what it costs to make it. They're not at a profit level yet. So then you've got marketing yet on top of that. So all these things. So when I compare, and I think part of this is, this lightsaber did not appear to be that unique compared to others that are in the market. So I think it becomes uniqueness is one part. Also, this is a new character. And so there's not a lot of, I mean, you've got some people probably like the character, but it's not a heritage character. And the collectors really like probably more retro things. So I think that's part of the problem.
Especially in Star Wars, you know, because Star Wars is very controversial. And it's very divided. It's very divisive with newer offerings outside of the original trilogy. Everybody knows that if you know anything about Star Wars.
So when I look at most of these Haslabs, most of these are unique, I would say, or something they don't make elsewhere and you haven't seen in a long time. And I was just comparing some of the things like the Marvel Legends Galactus. That had 30,000. That's a lot. Right. So also scarcity is going to play out if this is going to be that big of a deal. True. 30,000 isn't something to like, oh, there's going to be there's 30,000. So that's not exactly a huge like, it's got to be unique.
They're in comic shops absolutely everywhere, because you had speculators that bought, I think you can max out at buying 5 items. And they're like, I could do this and flip a huge profit. But it's everything, you know, economics 101, which anybody who ever goes to college takes, probably teaches you about supply and demand. Very basic.
So I mean, and they've hit a couple of different franchises here, and they've gone all over the place. So it looks like, I mean, out of their numbers, and we would say this, new products, typically you get 30% success rate. They've backed, 80% of these. So they're going to keep doing this. They're going to keep doing it because it's a cash grab. It's low effort, and they can continue to make money. So I think that's the rationale for it. But once again, a lightsaber, I think they've got to pick unique properties and unique toys and elements to really capture the attention. So I just think they whiffed on this opportunity.
That's the business. Them's are the breaks.
Right. The swing and a miss. All right, Todd, next story. I know you're not thrilled about this. This is a big frowny face for you, but I've known about this one for a while. And even though it is triple the price. Oh, excuse me. Well, God, no, it is triple the price of what these figures are becoming because, again, your $20 6-inch action figure from Hasbro used to be $19.99. It's crept up to $22, $24. Some of the specialty ones are $27. So let's just settle on $30 as being the price of an action figure now. For $60, this is a new thing that people are actually going to be able to pre-order these at San Diego Comic-Con, which is coming up. Actually, it'll be going on by the time you're listening to this episode at the end of next week, next Friday from when we're recording this. Hasbro at their booth there at Comic-Cons in collaboration with a company called Form Labs is going to use new 3D face scanning technology, which will be available through an app on your phone, to create a 3D rendering of your head to put on the body of a character from various franchises: Avengers, Ghostbusters, Star Wars. So did they mention that here? I feel like, yes, there you go. Yes, exactly. So yeah, Star Wars, Marvel, etc. Hasbro or Ghostbusters, different franchises that they have. I'm totally going to do it because
you will have 85 of these things. It's myself as Luke, young Luke, old Luke, Han Solo, Spider-Man.
maybe tops one per franchise, but at least I'll get one because.
And there's no Star Trek line. If there is a Star Trek line, we're done.
Well, exactly. No, yeah, exactly. Or simply, I will take one of my older Star Trek figures. I'll pull their head off. I'll glue my head back on there. There you go, Charlie figure.
That's like Toy Story. Toy Story
exactly.
creature.
Now I'm Sid from Toy Story. But Todd, you're not a figure collector anyway. But I know that you had some strong feelings about this. So go ahead.
When I've seen all of this stuff, they don't show the person next to the figure. And that's my biggest concern. It's going to kind of look like you. The 3D figures you get and the technology they use to capture the images of like sports figures or action, the people that are in the movies, that is high end.
Right.
I don't think this is going to be that great. It's going to be like, I think that's you, or it's like when when you've got those people that renovate like classic art. And they do the things with like the sculpture and things like that. And then it's horribly gone wrong. Or the person that sculpts the Sammy Sosa sculpture, and it looks like trash. I just don't think the tech is high enough on this one. It's going to look really good. I saw some of the images, and like the figures have this weird smile. Like, I'm like,
well, yeah, you see it right at the top of our link. There's two in this picture. There's two Power Ranger characters, the Red Ranger and the Pink Ranger, and you have two faces that look like people, admittedly. But I will tell you that even since the Star Wars Black Series line launched, which was back in 2013, and obviously it's still cranking on, they're turning out newer versions of established heritage characters like, Harrison Ford as Han Solo or Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia that have really increased so much in quality in the last 3 or 4 years. So you're right. If you see, someday you'll see me with here's my Charlie figure, and I'll take a picture of it and I'll put it on social media. That'll be the proof in the pudding. But I understand where you're coming from. So we will see just how much that works. Eric Zane, what do you think? I mean, you could buy them and sell them. People would want figures of you, I'm sure.
Oh, please. You remember the bobblehead industry, they've put faces on of custom people all the time.
Right.
And they seem to have pulled that off. And I also don't think that Todd's the thing about, if they're going to do this, they should have, when you sign up for this or are interested, the ability to, and I don't know if they'd be willing to do this, is send you a mock-up of what you would look like in you know what I mean?
Right.
And that's and I think that but I doubt that they're doing that because they're not like publicizing that.
Right.
And so that's kind of weird. So, but if they had that ability to do that, to be able to show, hey, this is going to be awesome, then off you go.
Right. But it kind of has the vibe of a no satisfaction guaranteed kind of vibe. Like, here you go. Well, I really don't. Yeah, like there's no returns accepted. Well, it's a custom product, and you pay and that's it. Which you totally understand because you can't really return it, and they're not going to resell it to somebody else. So
no,
it certainly does seem problematic. but I'm still in.
It could be really creepy though too, because you could I'm going to get Eric's picture and I'm going to make a doll out of him.
Oh yeah,
or make
voodoo,
a voodoo doll. Yeah,
right.
Yes,
well, that must be why you can only scan your own face from the Hasbro Pulse app, so that people are sending in pictures. So I don't have I want a custom sexy figure of Todd, and here he is a slave lab.
You can do. Yeah, so you can get your ex-wife's face and then some other
Charlie.
person and do some type of stopgap.
Oh God, yeah.
or a creepy guy who pines for his ex-girlfriend. See, this could go very wrong.
Very much so. That's why that's why they got to submit it. Obviously, you have to do it personally. You can't just send in a picture of some weirdo.
Yeah. Although I would hope this does go well, because this could be really cool for people. I get it. I have a good friend of mine who is big into Power Rangers, and he would love to get one for himself, his daughter, and they would just love it. But I just worry that the quality control might not be there. But if it works, it works. And could be a very fun gift to give somebody that that they love something.
Absolutely correct. Well, we will see. And again, Todd, the next story is all you talk about San Diego, but that's where the attendees are going to be able to come to the Hasbro booth and kind of get this ball rolling. So we shall see. I'm fascinated, but I'm in. I'm definitely in.
Yeah, we'll see how this goes. And also merch. It's a merch opportunity. So we'll see how that goes as well. But what's exciting is San Diego Comic-Con is officially back. They are getting full engagement from Hollywood. This is going to be a big event, and it starts to feel like the world of geek is coming back to normal. So we've got basically Gizmodo has shared the panels that are going to be there this year. And San Diego Comic-Con actually kicks off Thursday. So the day after you listen to this, it'll have kicked off. But I'll tell you, if you're watching it, and hopefully most of the stuff will be online, so you can watch what you're going to be expecting to see. The first one is Dungeons and Dragons, the new movie with Chris Pine, is going to have a huge presence there as a panel. Also have I think they're having a Dungeons and Dragons pub, like a micro pub set up. So that's pretty cool.
I like it.
So that's going to be Thursday, July 21st at Hall H from noon to 1. So once again, that's a big movie that's going to be there. And then stop me anytime if you hear something you have more exciting comments to share. We're getting Marvel's Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. It's a cartoon going to Disney Plus. That is coming out. Yeah, that panel is going to be at room 6BCF if you're there.
Okay, great.
Mark your guide and your map on July 21st. So that's going to be a new content for Disney Plus. The second official animated show out of the MCU. So that'll be there. National Treasure, Edge of History, owned by Disney now, will be there. A younger cast, and it's a series. This will also be July 21st at Ballroom 20. I know nothing about this.
I was going to say, I don't think you need to tell people where it's going to be at, because it'll be past prologue. But yeah, we should roll through. There's 26 of these, so we probably ought to just keep rolling through.
Well, I know nothing about this. So Nicolas Cage apparently is not involved, and it's a younger cast. So I don't know.
Interesting.
It could be interesting. Next, we've got Apple TV will have Severance there. So apparently for season 2, that's going to be July 21st. It's a series I need to catch up on. And Charlie, William Shatner is coming to Comic-Con.
I tell you,
Hall 8.
It's only interesting if he does something crazy, because he is now 80. No, he's 90 years old. He just turned 90 years old.
He's 90.
I just want to see, because he's not really acting anymore. I just want to see him do something nuts. That's all that would be of note to me.
He still looks great though, and he went to space at 89. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, who else is going to space today? Well, I'm sure Jeff Bezos will be living on the moon when he's 90. So yippee!
Exactly, in his penis rocket. Yes.
Oh.
Then we're getting Amazon is bringing the Lord of the Rings, their new show that I just watched the new trailer. It looks phenomenal, and at least in the way it looks, because they spent $1 billion on it. I think Friday. That's going to be very, very good, and that's really more about Galadriel and her adventures before the Lord of the Rings. So it's a prequel, so mileage may vary if it's good or not.
Nothing related to Peter Jackson?
No, this is completely...
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're going to actually get new representation of all the characters. The orcs will look different than what Peter Jackson had. So this is really the licenses with Amazon, but it's not going to be connected to those movies.
That's not a bad thing.
Yeah, then we're getting, apparently they're making a Gremlins cartoon CG coming to HBO Max July 22nd. So we'll see how that goes.
Good deal.
Then we are getting Marvel Studios is having an animation panel. So we're potentially going to see more about What If, Season 2, Marvel Zombies, new X-Men, and Spider-Man shows. That's
Awesome.
on July
I love it.
22nd.
Cool.
Okay.
Then we have Amazon is bringing Paper Girls, a show that I'm very excited about. That is launching, I believe, in August, and that's going to have their panel on Friday. So, Eric, if you're not familiar with Paper Girls, is similar like Stranger Things, set in the past, but it's basically 4 paper girls who encounter some aliens. So this is based on a comic book that came out essentially around the same time as Stranger Things.
Okay, excellent.
By a great writer. Then we get the Walking Dead final episodes. Oh my goodness! Is there anything else to say?
Just we talk about this quite frequently. Walking Dead is the getting blood from a stone kind of show, but they may have something interesting to say about what comes along. But I have checked out of Walking Dead a long time ago. April still watches it, so obviously, if it was really that much poison, nobody would be watching it at all. So anyway,
is there anything worse when you can feel the interest on a show leaving your essence,
right?
And you're coming to grips with. I'm going through that right now as I'm wrapping up Ozark.
Oh my God. Yeah, we blasted through Ozark, and then we got to the part where they split the final season. And then we were just furious that we couldn't watch the rest of it. But then we did watch the rest of it, and now it does not cross my mind because it's just in one ear and out the other. It works that way.
I've got a few more episodes to finish, and I'm working on Better Call Saul, which is just fantastic.
Awesome.
That's the show I need to start watching because I loved Breaking Bad, but I was hesitant to start. But now it's almost ending, so I'm like, I better start before I get spoiled.
I'm digressing, but yes. I like that show better than I love Breaking Bad so much, but I am equally in love with Better Call Saul to a point where there were moments in Breaking Bad where I'm like, this sucks. You know, like when Skylar and Marie are talking. And RJ Mitty, his character too. I was just, it's like enough. I need more Hank. I need more Walt. I need more, whatever. Jesse. I've never experienced that with any of the characters in Better Call Saul. It is hands down my favorite show that I've ever watched in my entire life.
Wow. Man,
I will watch.
Eric has successfully jumped ahead into the next segment, but we'll pull him back.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm kidding. All right, let's keep it rolling, Extra. What else we got?
Yeah, so Keanu Reeves has got his comic Berserker is going to be there. He's going to be talking more about that. Very cool. Then we've got some directors talking about directing. The director of Deadpool, Tim Miller, Finding Nemo director Andrew Stanton, and John Wick director Chad Stahelski, which is pretty cool. People have an interest in understanding the craft of directing, especially in big properties like that. Then we have Warner Brothers is going to have their theatrical panel. So more about Black Adam, Shazam, Fury of the Gods, and yes, Dwayne Johnson will be there, and that is Saturday in Hall H. Once again, HBO Max will be there, and they're going to be talking about the Game of Thrones spin-off,
which I think
that is House of the Dragon.
Drops next week, if I'm not mistaken. Is it July 21? I just thought I saw a piece of
I believe so. I'll have to check on that. But that could be really good, or it could be why prequels don't work.
Right. Yes. I would say, Eric, classically, Todd is a prequel hater, and his logic is sound. If characters were that interesting to start with, you would have met them in the beginning. As opposed to
a money grab.
As opposed to being invented in the past. So nobody needs to see Darth Vader as a whiny teenager. There's your prequel logic.
Yeah, you're not. It's not a synergy play at that point. But something it is going to be there is Star Trek will be there at Hall H, talking about their shows and hopefully some new announcements like that cool show with Michelle Yeoh that we want to hear more about.
I would tell you not to hold your breath on that one. We did finally get a drop date of August 25 for Lower Decks season 3, which we will be blasting about in the coming weeks, talking about it on Code 47, our Star Trek show. But yeah, I would expect we could get a date maybe for the end of Star Trek Prodigy, which is the younger focused animation program. And I'd love to hear something about a new, like you said, live action program. And it would be awesome if it was Michelle Yeoh's show, but that one hasn't been discussed in so long. So fingers crossed.
Very, very cool. Then we go on to AMC. We'll be having a panel all about the new Interview with a Vampire series. So that's coming this fall. So that could be interesting because it's for channels. Yeah.
Is that Eric Bogosian?
It looks like it.
Okay, excellent.
I'll be interested to see what his role is because that I don't know as much about the series of books and all that except for the Tom Cruise movie, and my wife loved the Queen of the Damned movie, so that's about all I know. Then we move on. Sandman. This is very exciting. HBO Max. Actually, this is coming to Netflix, which is Sandman. It's one of my favorite comic books of all time. Being adapted. Neil Gaiman is involved in that. It's going to be a Q&A, and that will. Sandman comes out later this year as well. So very excited for that. Then moving on really quickly, apparently Dan Harmon, who created Community and Rick and Morty, he has a new show called Crepopolis.
Oh, great.
And it's animated with the gods, and it looks weird. So more weird animation.
Yes, and likely to survive, I doubt it. Because, I like this. This is exciting. Something at Comic-Con that is related to comic books. Oh, my God. Stop the presses. Marvel Comics' Next Big Thing panel. Focusing on things related to comics, and there's not a hell of a lot more because Marvel is, I know Spider-Man is celebrating in August his 60th anniversary, 1962. But Marvel has been publishing since Marvel Comics number was 1939, if I'm not mistaken. So that's coming up on a damn near a century, which is kind of crazy to think about.
I'm sure they'll create some new numbering, Charlie. So we're on issue number 1 billion.
Eric, there's this thing called legacy numbering. Don't get us started.
It's very dumb. It's like if you're like, hey, Eric, what podcast are you on? Well, if I did the side quest and I did this one, and this one didn't work out, I think I'm at 3,000.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Why not?
Exactly. Then next, Apple TV will have Mythic Quest. The cast there was one of my favorite shows on Apple TV. And we don't know about season 3 yet, but hopefully they'll be giving a sneak peek into that. Okay. Then Marvel Studios is back, Hall H, on Saturday. And Charlie, I think we talked about this. Mm-hmm. We think this is where we may be getting Black Panther trailer and a bunch of new announcements to really tell us where we're going with Marvel Cinematic Universe, because at this point, we don't know.
X-Men and Fantastic Four, because otherwise Phase 4 of the MCU has been all kinds of all over the place. So let's look for some unity, some focus. I hope so.
50 hours and still no clear path.
Right, exactly.
That's
correct.
A lot. Yeah. And then we're getting Chucky season 2. They have a panel there. The first season I really enjoyed quite a bit.
Oh, really?
It's kind of neat that they made it. Yeah, they actually did a very good take on how to use Chucky in a different way within a series. I thought it was highly effective. It's on Sci-Fi, so it might be on Peacock now. So
Gotcha.
Might be a service you can actually find it.
I'll take it. I would take a peek. So, Todd, I know how excited you are about this one.
Yeah, well, I'm going to actually probably talk about the show next week because I want to talk about some of this. But What We Do in the Shadows is going to have a panel, but they're already on season 4. The first 2 episodes already launched this week. It's a great show, and it's one of the best shows, I think, on TV right now. Great comedy.
That's over on Hulu, is it? Is that where you can find it? Because it's
on Hulu and FX, yeah, so it comes to Hulu proper if you want. But Eric, great mockumentary about vampires being followed by basically a documentary crew.
Oh, fantastic. So it's hilarious.
Very much so. Yeah. And it's made by the guys who were involved in, I think, the IT crowd, and at least seems to be, it has Matt, what is his name? Matt Baker? What's that guy's name?
I don't know Matt's last name. I don't know, but it's great. There was a movie by Taika Waititi. They then decided, let's make a series, but not include any of those characters, which is very funny. Very similar.
Ended up working out. Oh, Todd, this last one is perfect for our conversation in the pre-roll about Funko Pops. Eric, I don't know where you stand with Funko Pops, but it is for geekdom and really for collectibles in general, it is kind of the lowest, easiest access thing because they are absolutely everywhere. They're super cheap. And I dare you to name a program of any kind that there's not some kind of Funko Pop related representation of. You know what I'm saying?
I love the fact that that all of this, everything around collectibles and just doing fun things, I've always been very, appreciative that is there. I wish I had the time and energy to focus on something as fantastic as collectibles.
Right.
Yeah.
But
just let you know, though, Eric, if you would like it, there's a Saul Goodman pop figure. He's only $125.
Oh, what? Oh my God.
$125.
What a bargain.
I had a long conversation with Bob Odenkirk.
Ooh.
Oh, really?
Just when back in the radio days, I've like everything, just about everything you focused on this show. I've got some degree of like it's back in the radio days. We had the luxury of being able to talk to fantastic people over the years from this the favorite things I've ever watched. It's been really great.
It's good stuff. Awesome.
Have you seen the movie with Bob Odenkirk where he's a badass?
Yes,
Great
I
movie.
love it.
Great movie.
Yeah, it was excellent, dark and hilarious, and I couldn't get enough.
Very good. Charlie, did you ever see that?
Which one? It was
Bob Odenkirk, where he's basically he's a milquetoast, but you finally find out that he actually was a enforcer for the government.
Oh my God! When did that one come out?
It came out last year. I watched it. It was great. I can't remember the name of it, but it was phenomenal. It was really good.
Well, I would
kind of like a Breaking Bad moment.
Yeah, I would totally watch that. But tell me what it's called and where I can find it, and I'll check
Nobody.
it out.
It's called Nobody.
It's called Nobody.
Because he was just a nobody in one life, but there's another side to him where he's much more than a nobody.
And that was his intention. He wanted to be a nobody. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Very
Good
cool.
deal. All right. So San Diego Comic-Con is going on as you're listening to this program, if you listen to it right away. So tune in. I assume a lot of these panels will be featured on the YouTube. Well, they probably have a YouTube channel, I would imagine, that you could subscribe to. And then the content will magically appear to you because that's the age we live in. Magically appearing content.
Absolutely. So, Charlie, I love this next story because I have been kind of paying attention to this project, which is Rob Zombie's making the Munsters. And I did not know what he was going to do with it. Was it going to be a straight take? Was it going to be an homage? Was it going to be like, nope, I made the Munsters, but I made them into real monsters and they kill people? Well, we now have an official trailer for the Munsters movie. And this is a thing. And I don't know how to describe it because it looks like it was made in somebody's backyard with like low rent cameras. And I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, Eric, did you see this trailer?
I'm looking at a still from it right now, and okay. I can't necessarily pan it because it might have been done intentionally.
That is what I'm trying to figure out. Is this approach? And Todd, you and John and I, John, our other founding SFU member, had a long conversation about this. Rob Zombie, as far as a content creator in the film space, is very analogous to Kevin Smith. He's reached a period of time where he's just doing what he wants. I think that commercial success is not a factor. And where are they going with this? Is it supposed to essentially be like a Ben Stiller? I remember on the old Ben Stiller show, I feel like they did a sketch that is essentially this movie. You know what I mean? Where it's just a very satirical, weird take on the Munsters. Hello?
Oh, I think we paused for a second. I don't know. I mean, was he trying to be like he wanted to recreate a 60s episode and like the really clunkiness of it? I really don't know. Maybe when it's all put together as a thing you can watch, it'll make sense. But when I watched it, I just felt like I don't know what he's going for. I know he is a huge fan of the Munsters. He talked about it with Howard Stern. It was one of his things as a kid he loved to watch. And maybe he's trying to be too faithful, similar to maybe like the Alfred Hitchcock remake of Psycho, which was just a shot-for-shot film. Right. We also saw The Watchmen, which was essentially trying to recreate the comic exactly. Mm-hmm. And that's not why you capture another medium or you go back to a property. Is just to make more of the same.
Right, exactly.
I think though that when you are at a level that he's at, which he can do whatever he wants for the rest of his life, that's when creative people then have that type of sway, then they start to do wild stuff. Right. And it's a risk. And I actually appreciate that because he'll figure it out if no one's buying it. Right. That I better dial it back just a little bit on the next project. But it might be fantastic, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm going to do something else great down the road," you know?
Right. I'm going to take my swing, and we'll see. So, like I said, right along there with Kevin Smith, who works tirelessly, but his films are in a lot of ways they're kind of nonsense to me. The stuff that he's made since his heyday in the '90s, but again, something that we're going to talk about in segment 3 of the show here. But I don't know, man. Interesting take. So
Very good. And
yeah.
Charlie, the last story, is this take with a grain of salt?
I think that I would struggle to believe that this was a possibility, but there's a rumor. And before I even posted this on the group, and then I looked back into it, I was trying to find a source on this that would make some kind of sense. But a rumor mill out there claiming that Steven Spielberg is being courted to direct the MCU reboot of the Fantastic Four. And all three of us are heritage lovers of Marvel Comics. Right up there with the Avengers, the Fantastic Four has always been a favorite of mine. It's funny, when we had comic subscriptions as a kid, I had the Spider-Man and my brother had the Fantastic Four, but I don't know that he read my Spider-Man, but I always devoured the Fantastic Four. I loved, Marvel's First Family. I love The Thing. He's one of my favorite characters. But yeah, this is something that is making the rounds, unfortunately. Was it now, before you dismiss this as another bit of fabricated internet bullshit? I don't know why they put bull star shit. Wouldn't you
see that? I see that.
Wouldn't you star out the H and the I to? I don't know.
Yeah, right.
But yeah. So it says some reliable scoopers have reported this, and I don't know. I'm going to go right down there and say I find this to be highly unlikely. I don't know of any comic book movie, name one for me that has a Steven Spielberg or a De Palma or someone, from the old guard that has directed it. Am I drawing a blank?
I don't think so. I mean, the closest.
Richard Donner and Superman, maybe,
but really, he wasn't at that class when he made it.
Yeah.
But the only thing I could think of is Spielberg is of an age where maybe he did read Fantastic Four comics, and it just captured his imagination, and he wanted to do something. Although, the worry I get is he wants to make the Stan Lee version of the Fantastic Four, and then we get the hokey Sam Raimi Spider-Man version, and then it's just
Yeah, right. So, oh boy, yeah. Tonally, the Fantastic Four one is going to be tough because it has been, their last effort when they made it in 2015, and that was, what's his face? Wasn't that Josh Trank, or was he doing it and he got fired? Anyway, it was really tonally just did not work out. So yeah, it's utterly terrifying to think what this would be like, but we're going to find out one way or another.
Well, why don't they just take the formula when they made any of the other movies that were absolutely successful and just say, do your thing, do what you're trained to do, because they've had horrible efforts in the past that no one's liked. And they're probably thinking about that in the back of their minds, that we don't want this to happen again, or what if it happens again? It's like, well, it's not, if you quit thinking that way and just put the accomplished people who know what they're doing in charge of it,
Truly. Yeah. But Todd, as you and I have talked about Marvel, well, especially on the Star Wars side, you've got, Kathleen Kennedy, who's driving the boat, who's famous for dispatching directors who try to go rogue. So I don't know. What do you think?
Boy, I don't know if Kevin Feige is. I know Marvel's one thing, and that's cheap. Apparently, when they do their special effects, they do things like that. But I don't know if they necessarily. We do know that Edgar Wright pulled away from Ant-Man because of control. He wanted to do some things. Marvel's not happy. They wanted to play, because Marvel's so focused on everything connecting. So that trying to do that with Steven Spielberg. I don't think you can say no to Steven Spielberg, even if you're Kevin Feige. If Spielberg says, I want the Fantastic Four to have her be the robot. Right. They're going to be
yes, sir. Okay. We got you. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. If you bring in, if you bring the mountain to Mohammed or whatever it is, I think Mohammed's going to swing the staff. So yeah, that's a very good point. So yeah, it would be dubious. And then what he would charge for a directorial fee would really make that, that return on investment number turn in a different direction.
Yeah, but Spielberg is the king of that family entertainment, the Amblin brand, which does kind of fit the Fantastic Four if that's what you're going for. So I will wait to see.
It might get legs. All right, well, with that, that's the end of the news. So it is time to get out that app to get that somewhat questionable cab, get us down to the scuzzy part of town, Nastyville. That's right. We're going to the Geek Easy, where it's time for us to talk about what we are digging. So let's go.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting in the Geek Easy, drinks are poured, and we are ready to get our nerd on this week. So we'll start with Eric. So Eric, what's getting you excited?
I stole my thunder a little bit. Excited and, well, I guess not really excited. Ozark, as I wind that down, I just feel like it's limping its way to the end. That led me to talking about being excited about Better Call Saul as that makes its way to the finish, and that is fantastic. And I don't see, if that lets me down, I don't know what I'm going to do, because like I indicated to you, that would be so devastating to me. But there's no way I have so much confidence in the writers of that film and the execution of it and the unbelievable star power of the people that have been putting that show out. I've seen a couple of films that I'm absolutely overjoyed with. I saw Elvis. And
Nice.
I don't know if you've talked about that yet.
Oh, yeah.
Charlie saw it, but what's your take on it?
I loved the film. I thought it was excellent. I thought that Austin Butler is an absolute superstar, and everybody. I couldn't. They really wove it in a neat little way with these little vignettes with a contemporary spin on some of the music interludes that led to some of these interesting pieces in it, which it kind of, it was hip. It was freaking sweet. I love that. And then I also saw, what was the other movie I saw? Wait a minute. I saw that, and then I saw Maverick.
Oh,
and
all right.
So good.
That movie, have you talked about that yet?
Oh, of course.
Oh, yeah. We loved it.
Okay.
We loved it. Yeah.
I loved it, and I describe it, and I don't mean to be insulting, but it was terribly awesome. Okay? I loved that horrible movie. It was great. Okay? Absolutely great. You must see that film.
So, quick question for you. And we've been talking about there might be potentially a sequel in line. And I just don't know how they pull off that lightning in a bottle again, because essentially they covered all the story beats from the first movie, wrapped those up. The only thing that was really missing was Kelly McGillis. And apparently, I don't think she's doing film anymore. So, and I don't think you can then get people excited again hearing Danger Zone for the 85th time.
No,
and I don't think there's already resolved relationship with Rooster and things like that. I mean, what are you bringing back? Meg Ryan? I mean, I just don't know that it pans out again with, we got to go back to school because,
Right.
you didn't learn enough.
Yeah, you're right. They did capture it in a fantastic way, and the whole nostalgic angle of it really drove people in. If they did bring Kelly McGillis back, the only interesting thing would be is that she's angry that she doesn't look as good as Maverick. She hasn't aged like Tom Cruise has.
She has. Yeah,
she's
right.
Nobody has. Nobody at 6-year-olds looks that good.
It's lack of service to Xenu. That's the problem. That's
right.
why.
Right. Now that Kelly strikes back,
She'd be in the sidecar versus on the back of the motorcycle.
That is horribly mean. It's a horrible, mean joke, and it's just a joke.
That's
Yes.
That is okay. But Todd, as you and I were speculating, there will be a sequel to this film because they want the money. That movie is at $1.2 billion globally right now. I saw a tweet this morning. So they're going to bring it back. I don't see it being good. I agree with you.
I am since that film, I am stone cold in love with Jennifer Connelly.
Oh,
I'm just going to say it.
That hasn't changed for me since 1993 when she was in that weird movie where she was with the guy overnight.
Career Opportunities.
Yeah, there you go. And it's trapped overnight in a Target with the kid who was the guy at the beginning of Pulp Fiction. Who
Hulk smash.
Yeah,
Hulk smash.
Exactly correct. Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, let me steal it away here and talk a little bit. So, Todd, you and I are going to do a little back and forth on this one, but I'll go through this first one first. So, April and I have been loving rewatching my favorite sitcom, which is Night Court, because you can find it on Amazon Prime. But last night, she's like, let's watch a movie for a change. I want to see something post-apocalypse. I'm like, all right. We're skimming through trying to find stuff, and we finally come upon, and I'd never seen these before, and it's funny because you're talking about a reinvention of the same series that's on Netflix right now, which you said is excellent. But we found the first Resident Evil film. This was from back in 2002. So we watched that, and we watched the one that followed. These movies epitomize the early 2000s, unlike other things that come right to mind. I'm talking about the dialogue, the scripting, the lighting with the lens flare, all the slow-mo. So Todd, this basically deals with, in the movie starts with a big intro, says the Umbrella Corporation, which now I understand why I've been seeing that at Comic-Cons for years, because I'm like, what the hell is the Umbrella Corporation? But basically the way that they paint the picture of it is basically it's Amazon. It's like they dominate media and they this and that, but they also get involved in their own employees don't know they're involved in bioresearch and blah, blah, blah. And so naturally being involved in bioresearch, they have an accident that kills people and reanimates them as zombies. And then Mia Jovovich is in it. And then they've got to go back in and, rescue a bit or a something or other. And lots of great explosions and headshots and people getting cut up by lasers. And there's even more of that in the second movie. They bring Mike Epps into it, so that they can have a wisecracking, urban type and whatever it is. So there are like 6 of these movies, Todd, if I'm not mistaken.
There's there's too many, and I have not seen them all. I tried to see them all, and I gave up.
It is 100% one of these things that April and I can turn on, and then I'm working on stuff for the network. She's working on stuff for her small business, and it's just on. So I don't think it's possible to give this my full attention because I don't know what I would do with it if I did. But it's great background music. It has aged exactly how you would have expected for your typical sci-fi thing filmed in Canada in the year 2002. There you go.
Yeah, a bad video game adaptation. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, exactly correct. So that's that. And I know, Todd, you're going to jump in and talk about the Netflix reinvention of it. But we got the season, or probably rather series finale of Ms. Marvel over on Disney Plus over in the past week. And again, we've been talking about this all along that it's been on. Todd, you love it. I like it fine. I'm not gaga about it. But I know that when Katie was on last week, she was not really thrilled with how it was going. I haven't really checked in with her to see what she thought of the finale. But Todd, what did you think?
I really loved how it wrapped up. I think this show has had some weird pacing issues, the way they essentially stepped away from a superhero story, but really cleared into family history. Some really, if you didn't know anything about the British partition, when India was given back their freedom, and basically India and Pakistan, how it formed, really cool, but still felt weird and disconnected from what they were trying to go after, which was essentially a teen dramedy superhero story. I thought the final episode nailed it, was a lot of fun. And then they had the prerequisite, well, now this is how we're going to tie it into the rest of the Marvel things at the very end. Well, yeah. So, and I love the cast. The lead actress. This is her first role. And I've never seen it. She's so natural. Just totally. Enduring. I love the cast. I really thought it was great. It was a good show that could have been better.
And we Marvel kind of continued with their flip the script, because when they started, they said, well, we're not going to do the character with the traditional powers with the character Kamala Khan as Marvel, because she basically has Mr. Fantastic powers. She stretches and does different stuff. But with this, they say, her power is focused through basically a MacGuffin, a bangle that she wears on her wrist. We then later find out, sorry about the spoilers, as we go through, the power is within her. The origin of the character is that she's an Inhuman, which is a long-standing, Marvel offshoot. And they flipped the script on this one. Todd, what did they decide to do? Instead of her being an Inhuman, what is she now?
So, spoilers for everyone. Her buddy Bruno, who apparently is a tech god who can do DNA testing, has said, based on further review, you're different than your parents and your family, and you actually have a mutation. So, mutation means a lot, but that leads us into potentially the gateway to say this is the first identified mutant, which would lead into the X-Men.
The bit with that is that Marvel had their first, fart in church, as it were, with their programming with the Inhumans on ABC back in 2017, I think, or maybe it was back. They tried to roll it out in IMAX. They produced 10 episodes. We didn't watch it until maybe a year ago. It was so bad because we watched the first episode on ABC. We're like, this is horrible. You had Anson Mount, Captain Pike, who was Black Bolt, who had a return in the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness of sorts. But the show was absolutely
in the worst hair ever.
So it was absolutely dreadful. But yeah, since the Inhumans were such a failure, and now that Disney absorbed Fox and they own the X-Men, they have changed Kamala's origin. She was Inhuman. Now she's going to be a mutant instead, because that's where they want to drive the boat. So kind of shameless, but it was the headline. Kevin Feige really hates the Inhumans. Thus, here we go.
Yeah. And then we did have another stinger. And Eric, I'm not sure if you're speed or if you're going to watch this or if you care.
It's too late now because we spoiled the whole thing. Sorry. Uh-oh, Eric, did we lose you?
No, I'm here. What was the question?
No, I wasn't sure if this is a show you were interested in.
I'm just listening. I'm just listening. Yeah. I mean, I anything you guys talk about, I'm interested. Heck yes. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's a short show, though. It's only 6 episodes. I think no episode is longer than 45 minutes. So it's very quick and easy to get out. And I think it's very charming. And another we will avoid the last bits if you do want to watch it, just if you care about how these things are connecting to the bigger Marvel universe. If you don't care, we'll say it. If you do and you want to watch it,
no, say it. Say it if you want. Well,
we found out where we're going to see Miss Marvel again. And that is in the next Captain Marvel movie, because she shows up and essentially swaps places with Miss Marvel. And that's how it ends.
Wow.
And they say Miss Marvel will be seen again in The Marvels, which is a movie that's coming out in 2023.
Yes, indeed. Yep. So, all right. Well, that's it for me, Todd. We'll switch gears back to talking about Resident Evil. So go for it.
Yeah, so Resident Evil, we already talked about it. It's one of my favorite video game series of all time. It keeps reinventing himself. The movies they started off as like, okay, the first one was entertaining. The rest of them are bad. Some and there has been, Robbie Amell actually was in a recent Resident Evil film that came out just 6 months ago.
Yeah,
really bad
it was
too.
Definitely this year, yeah.
Yeah, people said that was horrible. And then there's been animated series and stuff like that. So it's a lot out there. But this Resident Evil series that's on Netflix is pretty cool because they're doing something different. They're essentially focusing on the character of Wesker, he's like this character that's kind of like the boogeyman, kind of is involved in Umbrella, but he has his own machinations. Well, this show is focused on him and his family, and he's played by Lance Reddick. And Lance Reddick is phenomenal in this role. He's very cool, and it's about him and his daughters. And essentially, he works for Umbrella. He's like the big guy at Umbrella, and he moves his family to South Africa because they have a facility there. Well, let's put it this way: what do teens always do typically? Mess things up.
Oh, yes.
That's exactly what happens.
Magic.
But the cool part is you essentially see 2 different time frames. You see them as teens with Wesker, and then you see the far future where the teens are grown up, and you see kind of how the world is linked and how kind of opens up. And this isn't the spoiler. It opens up in the first scene. You see 2034, and it's essentially saying, the world's been dead or 2036, the world has been essentially dead or in a bad shambles for 14 years. So it's really cool that basically covering 2 different timelines that we see it. I like it. My only complaint was I really hated the teens because they just mouthy, just trying to find some redeeming qualities. I think you finally do at the end, but of the first episode. But I liked it. I thought it was well done. Kind of intriguing to see where they're going to go. It's paying homage to certain things from the games and different things. But if you have never watched or played Resident Evil, I think it's a good place to pop in.
When you said teens, what do? And that is never listen to their parents, get arrested, and do drugs. That's the first thing that came to mind.
Good stuff. I love it.
From my own experience, of course.
Yes. And you know what? They always know better than the adults.
Always.
Yes.
Move out now while you still know everything.
Yes. And that you know what? Let's go to 19 up to 26.
Oh, my God. Yikes.
The extended teen time frame. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
So I definitely say check it out. I don't know how many episodes or how good it is, but it's all there. So check it out. It's Netflix. You probably have it. But one show I highly recommend, and it's a show that it's a different type of, I don't know if you call it a dramedy, because that is Our Flag Means Death. HBO Max, Taika Waititi partnered up with another creator to make essentially a pirate series where it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek. Rice Darby plays as Captain Steed Bonnet, who essentially is a realistic figure. He called himself the Gentleman Pirate, who tried to be a kinder, gentler pirate in the old days. Blackbeard is involved in this, and it's pretty clever, but never laugh out loud funny. So it's almost like just really it's one of those series that I smile a lot, but I never like laugh out loud. Sometimes I do at occasion, but it's really entertaining. A lot of good actors in this. It's really well done, and it actually explores some of the sexuality of people of the time, because you think about this, all these pirate men on a ship for months, relationships are going to form, and they kind of cover that. And it's very interesting. Yeah.
Raise that rainbow flag right by the Jolly Roger.
Woo,
Absolutely.
The jolliest of Rogers. So, Todd, when something is not LOL, which is not an expression I ever use, and it's I smile, what's your acronym for that?
I did a lot of smiling during The Office. I didn't find anything like, oh my God, that's the funniest thing. It's like, I see what they're doing. It's clever. Right. But maybe somebody else will find this laugh out loud. But I find it
smile inside. So SIN. Sin? Oh no! Oh God! No, you can't be sin.
Sure. Exactly. Whatever you want to do. But yeah, I think it's. So I think it's because it's well executed. The writing's fantastic, and it's very fun. So but I think it's well worth watching. I think there's like 8 episodes. Yeah. But it's on HBO Max. I don't know if there'll be season 2, but where it ends, there definitely could be a second season.
And again, HBO Max is something everybody has or has from time to time when something comes back on. So yeah, I wanted to check it out because again, it's Matt Berry, right? Isn't it? Matt Berry, that's his name. No,
not Matt Berry is not in this. Matt Berry is not in this. But Race Darby from the
Concords, Flight of the Concords.
Concords, yeah, he's the lead actor. Yeah, there's some notables you'll know.
I knew it was one of those dudes. Well, I will have to tune in. Oh, well, with that, the end of our time at the Skeevy Geek Easy. Let's skip out on the tab, as we always do. But it's time to pull up that Air Qantas app. We're going to the land down under. Time for the Geek Easy to end and to get down to the Thunderdome where the mutants await. Let's go.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
Thank you, Tina. We're sitting in the Thunderdome where the mutants have been gathered for a topic or a game to be entertained. And this week, our topic is, since we have 3 gentlemen of a certain age, we decided we would say, we often hear people talk about the good old days and lamenting things that have changed because, you think what you experienced was better. It's kind of like when people say, music was better in my day. Well, I think that everybody says that because I think we all capture a music of a certain time. I think they said by the time you're 23, that's kind of when your major music influences end, and then you move on and maybe you can hear some things. So similar to like media and things like that, as we grow up, the shows we watched, the things we listened to, the experiences we had and how we watched them and listened are kind of part of our DNA at this point. Eric, you talked about how you became a geek, but we kind of talk about, I think what we want to talk about is the lens of what's good and bad, or maybe no different in how what we consumed versus what we have today. So I'll kind of kick it off as, the different media. Do you miss physical media? Because physical media is largely becoming obsolete in many, many different areas. Music, comics, books, movies, all of those things. So what do you think? Do you miss physical media? Does it make the hobby worse or better without it?
I'll start. In my opinion, it makes it worse.
Much worse.
The idea of purchasing the actual cassette, vinyl record, or CD, it's, you've invested time in it. You've the involvement, the whole process. And without that, you have an element that is no longer there. That's one less thing to be attached to.
Right.
And so it's cut and dry. This is a bygone era. It can never be. No one can like things nowadays the way we liked them back then.
True that. I broke my own rule today. We had, after having brunch with my daughter and her boyfriend, we walked around the corner to Argos Bookstore, place that I've collected comics since I was 10 years old in the 80s. It came under new ownership earlier this year. So I went in and I met the new owner. I'm going to say his name is Roger. I had to have him tell me twice because I'm bad when people aren't wearing name tags. That's no good. And I picked up an old book because, again, it's a bookstore with some comics and he's redoing it, doing all this different stuff. I picked up a hard bound copy of this great book I loved in the 90s called The Nitpicker's Guide to Star Trek The Next Generation. Loved it. It probably exists on Kindle somewhere. I don't know. Maybe it's out of print, but it's awesome, and I would love to read it. But I also picked up the first 4 issues of the new Captain Peggy Carter comic that I'm going to make April read because April loves the character. But I bought a physical comic, and the Marvel comics always come with a code, so I'll put it in the computer, and I assume that I can read it on Comixology. But more to the point, Todd and I both use Marvel Unlimited, which Marvel drops every piece of their new content after 3 months on Marvel Unlimited. And it's Netflix for Marvel. Anything that over 30,000 comics. I've been a subscriber to that for 10 years. I love it. But I wanted to support a small business. I wanted to say, hey, nice to meet you. Here's some money. And, glad that you're here. And I told her, well, I knew the guy who owned this place. I sounded like Kenny Rogers in that song 20 years ago when I was talking to this guy. Well, back when I was a kid, I rode my bike here. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. My God. You know what I mean? It was just, but exactly. We'll read those 4 books and then you'll probably get a couple of more, and they'll go in the only comic boxes I have, which are in the back of a closet in my bedroom, and they're completely inaccessible because there's stuff in front of them, because physical media is the biggest pain in the ass. All the CDs I have left are in a box in the garage. I don't even put new music on my phone anymore. I have a subscription service, Amazon Prime Unlimited, that I use every single solitary day because I'm a music junkie. So, there's nothing good about physical media in any way, shape, or form. Boo!
It's interesting with physical media because when you grew up and you could only get so much, you could only buy so much because limited means what was available at the time. You didn't have an Amazon where you could order anything across the globe. It was what was at your Kmart or what was at your Revco drugstore for comics or things like that. So I think physical media made a lot more because it was like, this is the thing I own, because I could have picked many things and I picked this. It was my heart and soul was into it, like action figures or things like that. It was what I chose with my limited means, and then you delve deep. You read the liner notes of your cassette or your album to know all the lyrics and all that stuff. And it really, you had a connection with the things you owned. Now, though, only reason I bought something dumb physically. It was the DVD series of Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place. It's a dumb, what? It's a dumb comedy. But I because Ryan Reynolds was in it. It had Nathan Fillion. It was a really clever show. But guess what? It's not available anywhere. It's not streaming. It's anything. So I'm like, I couldn't. Yeah.
That's exactly what we did with that 70s show, which I talked about probably 6 months ago. We bought the whole set for $35 and it's 8 seasons because that's the only place it exists. Same situation.
So, that's the only time I find that I miss physical media, because if I don't find that, then it becomes really hard to obtain it. And then you may have to go down dark paths unfortunately, the Justice League versus the Avengers series, which is out of print and it's no longer available digitally. And then they were having it on sale. It's $100 for the 4 issues or the collector's edition. I'm at that point, it's there's just got to be a happy medium, because you get into rights, things don't come back because of music. So it becomes a challenge. So that's one of those things with physical media. I'm there's pros and cons.
Right. Those are the only comics I still own. I own Marvel's run of The Further Adventures of Indiana Jones, the second comic I ever read in my life. It was between 1982 and 1985. And I have that. And again, it's in that box in the back of my closet that I never look at, but it's there. But it doesn't exist in trade paperback form, and it doesn't exist digitally. And that might change when that film comes out next year, but it may not change. So that's the only way I'm ever going to have it. The only comics I kept were ones I knew that I was probably never going to find digitally, that weren't going to show up on Marvel Unlimited. So, yeah.
So I want to pivot to the next part of the discussion, which is availability and quantity. So we can do this in 2 different ways. So quantity, we won. Back in the bad old days, I would say, of geek culture, anytime you saw a movie that was related to fantasy, sci-fi, or you were excited, regardless it was a pile of crap or not. But it was your pile of crap.
And it usually was a pile of crap.
Yeah, exactly. You had so little, and the opportunity to see it. I remember, if something was in the movie theater, that was your one chance to see it.
Right.
And you didn't know when it was going to be on, when it would show up on a syndication, and it would be edited out or something like that. So you really, and then there was no way to find out. How are you going to know? There was no internet. You didn't know, maybe reading a fanzine or something. Oh, I heard this is going to be out, or casting for a movie.
It's going to be in Starlog. I remember, it's funny you mentioned that, because at the Friends of the EGR library sale a couple of years back, we went and I picked up some, it's all donated stuff. So like some mother was cleaning out her basement and his son left behind all of these old Star Logs or whatever. And one of them was from like 1997. It's George Lucas is now casting a new Star Wars trilogy, and Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to be a character, and it could be like complete bullshit information. And then there's going to be animated characters, one of whom is named Jar Jar Binks, and everybody was ooh, and you see how that turned out, you know what I mean? But you're right. That was right at the cusp of when, in the very, very late 90s, when the internet started to be a factor. But before that, it was all Starlog and Wizard World and, the Star Trek Communicator fan club magazine, or, Todd, were there fantasy, like, fan club magazines out there that you were aware of?
Not really. I mean, I really didn't pay attention to it unless it was somewhere I could find out. But I mean, this kind of goes to the level of content. And one of those things that also goes into that is because of the lack of content, anything you got, you memorized it. A lot more, not everybody knew about it, right, because geek culture was not as far and leading. And you treasured things. And if you got something, you rewatched it a billion times because there wasn't much out there. So I think that's part of our culture of geeks. We're so ingrained in like Star Wars and Star Trek because you didn't know if you're going to get more, so I'm going to absorb it and watch it all again. And I've stepped away from that now. I don't rewatch anything because there's too much stuff and there's not enough shared experiences. And I'm like, I'm going to miss out on the next great thing. So I've kind of gotten away from rewatching things because there's just too much. So I don't know. Is it better to have too much or less, but getting deeper into it? I don't know, Eric. Are you in that position?
That was going to be my question to you, Eric, because you were born in 1970, which you already told us because you said you graduated high school in 88. So even I can do math. So you were 7, 8 years old when like Star Wars came out. Do you have a Star Wars tale that it's kind of around this topic?
Yeah. Well, my overall thought on this is very simple. When we absorb things in the era that we did, there was an oversaturation of the culture was limited. We had 3 TV stations, so we really got into what we watched.
Big time.
We didn't have anything distracting us like a phone. We had to read actual comic books. So we still had to fill something to grab onto. That's why we love that. That is how nostalgia is created. And I don't think that there's anything that can have that much type of attention to it because people's minds get too much. There's so much available. You were doing a podcast about all the shows that we've talked about.
Oh my gosh, big time.
Back then. That's why Star Wars was so magnificent, because it was like the greatest thing we'd ever seen. And there was nothing else that could match it in terms of storytelling for an entire generation of people. And that's replicated.
Right.
It's just incredible. So the golden era was prior to the internet and devices. That's it. It can never happen again, unless if we go back in time.
Zombie apocalypse. Think about that'll put us back to the Bronze Age, or whatever the hell it was, and we won't be able to. That's what's always crazy about The Walking Dead. They can't ever turn the power back on, so there's never an internet again. It's amazing.
Yeah, right. So that's my take on it. It's pretty much. I think that nostalgia. If you were to look at anybody who's a kid right now, in 25 years, will they be doing a podcast about what was great to them? Of course not.
Right. They won't know because it's all just a blip. I don't know.
Well, and then shared experiences, right? I mean, 3 channels, all of the eyes were on fewer things. So you had more shared experiences, more water cooler moments.
Right.
And the era of, that kind of, the way people consume content, some people love the binge drop, where it goes on day one and you get it there. And apparently this ties into learning. Cramming actually means you remember less. Right. So it actually has less of an impact on you when you binge versus something every week, because you have a chance to absorb and understand. Right. And that's why bingeable shows prior to, I guess it would be House of Cards, were shows that already existed. because
Right.
they were already out for years. But
Right.
Netflix says, we'll just reproduce this. And I don't think it's catching on because Netflix is still the only one doing binging. Everybody else is doing weekly.
Right.
And
Because the
yeah.
streaming services are obviously trying to get people to stay on board, where there's all this talk of, oh, Netflix is suffering and they've lost this many subscribers. I think Netflix is going to be fine because it's still, something that everybody around the world touches in one way or another. But yeah, you're right. Hulu, Disney Plus, Peacock, HBO Max, those shows do come out once a week. And it's the only kind of, it's appointment viewing that April and I have. Todd knows that, April and I are early risers because the pets get us out of bed and we're like, it's 5:15 a.m. Let's watch Obi-Wan. Let's watch Star Trek Strange New Worlds,
Right.
So it's still appointment viewing, but like to your point, Eric, back in the day, or Todd, you had said water cooler moments, everybody watched, Cheers on Thursday night. And that's what they were talking about, because you were going to catch that episode again until summertime reruns, in which case nobody would be talking about it, but they still needed to sell advertising. And so it was still on.
Yeah. And, the fact that feeling you get when the show, like on AMC's Better Call Saul, when it ends, I'm like, oh no, not now. That can't happen.
Right.
When you have that's an element that is so palpable.
Right.
And you can't do it in that regard with binging it.
Right.
So something's lost.
Because,
and then if it's great because AMC, then everybody, like you said, they talk about it. Oh, did you watch Better Call Saul? Or you're going to go to a chat group where people are talking about it. They're getting mileage out of it. It's great. That's the way it should be.
Right. Yeah. It just, but it individualizes it to a point that'll never be, oh, we all watched the last episode of MASH, or in the 70s, we all watched Roots, when it was on, because it was the event of a generation. But now it's like, yeah, it's oh, I haven't watched that. Don't spoil it for me. It's like Game of Thrones. Oh, I haven't watched it. Don't spoil it for me because I worked all weekend and I haven't been able to turn it on, as opposed to, no, it's on Sunday night at 10 o'clock and that's it.
Yeah, you can't watch it later because your VCR didn't record it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, or the DVR.
Yeah.
Which leads me back to then, essentially, now where people are complaining about too much. And I guess the question is, I don't know if people have that point in history to say, remember when there was nothing? So I'd rather have more than nothing, because when there's more of it, you get more opportunities to do better things versus this is your one shot. Imagine, Charlie, if Inhumans was the only shot Marvel got, and that's all you got.
Right. There'd be no more. Yeah,
I'm not going to watch it.
They took their shot. Yeah. It's like Hamilton. They threw away their shot. Oh, yeah.
I usually wait until people are talking. When people are talking about a show that's fantastic and I must try it, that gets me to the table. And so I like having all of those things that are out there, and I can pick and choose what I want. Frankly, I don't watch a lot. I'm very selective at what I get into because of time constraints. I just can't do it. But if enough buzz hits me and I hear about it, then I'll bite.
Wow. So I guess if you had your preference to grow up, would you choose to grow up in this era or when you originally did? We'll start with you, Eric.
I would say the era that I grew up in, because so much that influenced me. I enjoy nostalgia. I enjoy all of those elements about the things of when I was a kid, because it was when you're young, everything is wonderment. And
right.
So it left a lot to the imagination, and it makes me feel good. So, and I don't know if it could be captured if my brain is flooded with all the things that floods a young person's brain nowadays from so many different sources.
Yeah, TikTok and YouTube and Reels and whatever. And yeah, God, I'm 100% in the same place, because even as, a 46 and a half year old as I am, to look at something new and exciting and just have that sense of wonderment when I first took, like, seeing Star Wars for the first time. I mean, I remember that when I was 4 years old, my dad took my brother and I to The Empire Strikes Back, summer of 1980. I've told the story a million times. I do remember that we sat and played rock, paper, scissors because there were no trailers. And what was on the background was an out of focus white picket fence. That's what I remember about going. And I remember when we got that movie on VHS a couple of years later, because it was a fuzzy copy and whatever it is. But, and I do remember going to see episode 4, the first Star Wars movie, when it was re-released in 1982. So it was those, but it captured the imagination because, again, you're young and it was a thing that was standalone. It was a moment in time. And so, yeah, I find it really hard to with so much content out there presented in so many different ways with everybody with a phone in their hand, that anything can really hold a special place in the heart. I mean, I even see that with my kids, my stepdaughter, April, will tell me that when she was born in 1994, Toy Story came out in 1995. So April buys this cassette tape, or this VHS tape, probably 4 or 5 times in the next several years because it's always on.
Right.
So it's so ingrained in her brain. But again, it's home viewing, but it was the thing. And now, but it was the one thing that you put a tape in, and that's how you watched it. So it was special in its own way.
And I think that there is one thing, though, when it comes to something like the Harry Potter series, what that did do, it did kind of like establish that nostalgia thing for young people, and it did it through reading. The fact that it went through a physical book, and young people, they were influenced by a lot of things internet-y at the time. So I think that was a huge thing that unfolded in front of our eyes in our culture, that a book captivated all of those people to see all of those movies. And I honestly don't know if that could ever happen again.
Yeah.
No, Twilight, right? The Twilight movies.
Oh my God.
I feel like that.
That is 100% something I'm glad has not resurfaced as being a new project.
Yes.
Let it be dead.
Yeah. And I'm going to take an opposing viewpoint. I like choice. I hated the fact that I only got this, so I had to love it. I think there's so many more choices and so many more opportunities to explore other cultures. I just hated that I grew up in the middle of nowhere and I had little choice. I had 3 channels. I had nothing. And I yearned for something new all the time. And I had to obsess over one thing because that's all I got. And now I'm finding so many more things that are my favorites now than compared to I actually am not nostalgic about Star Wars anymore. I've kind of lost that gleam because I'm like, there's so many things so much better.
Yeah. Trust me, Eric. He has. Todd is this. This is a big from a therapy standpoint. This is a big step for Todd to admit that he does not like Star Wars.
Well, no. I don't think Star Wars is good anymore. I think it's not the best written. It's not the best directed, and I think that's where now I can watch the best of the best. I don't have to just watch a thing because it happens to be fantasy or genre. So I'd rather have choice of good things, and maybe I don't absorb that as well I used to. But that's okay because there might be the next best thing that comes up and I like this even better. So I'd rather have more than less. And that's why I like this modern time, because I can explore and see regions and media and things I never existed. So I love it. So I'm glad of it. But I totally get how other people in that realm. That's why we are all different.
Right on.
Good deal.
Awesome.
I like it.
Well, that is it for the show. It was a long one, but I think we had a good time.
Hell yeah.
Eric, before we go, thank you for joining and tell people how they can find you.
Gentlemen, it has been a pleasure and a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me. My show is available wherever you download podcasts. Just search Eric Zane Show Podcast. And I will say that I swear like an idiot. It is. I've been very nice here.
Yeah.
And, so
Todd is the one that holds up the image that we're a family program. But
no. But I mean, but wear the earbuds or HR is going to call you in the office.
Yeah,
so,
right.
I also am on Twitch. Just search Eric Zane Show. Everything is all. When you search my name, ERICZANE, I have a website, ericzaneshow.com, and that's it.
That's the one.
Awesome.
Todd, how about you?
You can follow me on Twitter @TOxtra. I always tell folks, check out secretfriendsunite.com, our YouTube channel, and subscribe to our podcast on any service you like.
Yes, indeedly doodly. Well, you can find me over on Twitter @the_C3. Go ahead and spell it out. My lovely wife, April, and I do run the West Michigan chapter of the International Star Trek Fan Club. That is the USS Grand Petoskey. You can find us on our website of the same name and socials everywhere. I also do my best to fill up our Secret Friends Unite Facebook page with content whenever I can. So that's me. Friends, as always, thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring, and keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In a truck.
Get off my lawn!
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow @SecretFriendsU on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.